A controversial new bill is being spearheaded by the Harper government. Bill C-51, an Anti-terrorism Act, will restructure national security laws to allow law enforcement to interpret protests as peaceful or as an act of terrorism. This has the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake concerned. We spoke to Chief Lloyd Phillips.
Well, I think it's very concerning, very alarming, because the way the language within the law, it talks about acts of terrorism, and there's no concrete definition of what terrorism means, and it talks about having lawful protests and lawful gatherings. But what happens if something is deemed to be not lawful? As you know, First Nations across the country are always standing up for our rights, Aboriginal title on land and everything else like that. And now there's a strong possibility that we'll be considered terrorists. Just for you're standing up for your rights, defending your rights. If it's not a lawful protest according to Canadian law, they have the ability to brand you as a terrorist. I think that's totally wrong. We're not opposed to Canada taking action against true terrorism. We all seen on TV, we all watch the news, we all know what terrorism is, and it's pretty common sense. But don't blanket people in Canada, and especially in this case, we see this on First Nations as a blatant example of how potential abuse of power could take place. Well, there's times that we have to say something publicly to the Prime Minister in this case, but to Canada, Canadian population as a whole, because it could be a blatant abuse of power by governments. But more importantly than that, watching the landscape out there, especially from a lot of First Nation communities, I'm surprised there's not a lot of things being said from the major organizations or First Nations. So we decided as a council that we have to say something, and hopefully this will kick off and have other First Nations and other groups who are concerned with their rights to step forward.